Corner. Welcome once again to Sean's Horror Corner. Thank you so much again for watching. I do appreciate everybody that watches the videos. And thank you again to everybody who's been liking the videos, commenting, hyping, helping me share the links on social media. Thank you all so much. I really do appreciate you guys, your support. You're helping me try to get the channel to continue to grow. We're getting close to 200 followers or subscribers, and while I know that's such a small number compared to so many other channels out there, when I started this a little over a couple of years ago, to think that there would be 200 people that would watch me talk about a horror movie would have never crossed my mind. So I'm very thankful for each and every one of you, and thank you. And let's keep it going and get it to grow and see what's next, right? So today we are going to pick back up and continue with the Psycho franchise. So far, I've covered the first 3 movies in this franchise, and so today we're going to be talking about Psycho 4: The Beginning. I picked this up. Actually, it's in a box set from Arrow Video, but that's the only way I could find 2, 3, and 4 on 4K, and so I picked that up. Very cool edition. Looked really good. I enjoy it quite a bit. The artwork is pretty cool, I think, there on the cover. And this was actually a first-time watch. I couldn't remember if I had ever seen this one before. I mean, I've seen the first Psycho movie more times than I can count. Absolutely love that. One of my all-time favorites, 10 out of 10 movie. I really enjoyed Psycho 2. Psycho 3 was pretty mid. It had some things about it that I liked, but it also had a lot of things that I didn't. And so I had just never got around to watching Psycho 4. So this was a first-time watch for me there a few days ago. And I'm excited to talk about it and see where this one goes. So I don't know if this is actually streaming anywhere. I think that I did see it for rent, maybe a couple places, like Fandango or something like that. But, I've got the 4K copy, so I watched it that way. But it's worth a watch. That's all I'll say for now as far as my spoiler-free thoughts. It's worth a watch. Check it out. That's all I'll say for now. So let me put my glasses on so I can read my notes, and we'll get started talking about Psycho 4. Tagline for the film: "You've met Norman, now meet Mother." Brief synopsis for this one: when he hears a talk radio host, Fran Ambrose, discussing the topic of matricide, Norman calls in under a false name to tell his story. Film released November 10th of 1990, directed by Mick Garris, written by Joseph Stefano, a runtime of 96 minutes. I could not find a budget for this film. No box office numbers as it was released. I believe it looked like to Showtime is how this one came out. Cast for the film: Anthony Perkins, Henry Thomas, Olivia Hussey, CCH Pounder, and Warren Frost. Let me stop there. Let's talk cast characters. One of the things that I said about that third film, because I think Anthony Perkins is absolutely incredible in Psycho. To me, that's an iconic, legendary performance. I also think he's really good in Psycho 2. In Psycho 3, I really wasn't fond of any of those characters for the most part, and I had issues with acting in several different areas. And while I don't think Anthony Perkins was bad in Psycho 3, I also didn't think it was his best performance either. I felt like he was even a little toned out in the film. I think he's incredible in this again. He does a fantastic job here in Psycho 4, in my opinion. Henry Thomas playing a young Norman Bates is also really good. I was impressed with his performance here. I think he did a great job. Olivia Hussey, she's always great. Always good to see her. CCH Pounder is good. Warren Frost is fine. I mean, the rest of the cast is fine. Everybody does a good job, but I really liked Perkins' performance. I really liked Henry Thomas's performance in this one. As far as characters, I don't think there's a lot here that's likable. Fran, the radio host, she's fine. I mean, I think we like her. She doesn't stand out as being amazing. Excuse me, but we do like her. Olivia Thomas, who does a great job playing Norma Bates, but you don't like her as far as the character. And then, Norman, it's so funny because I remember talking about this in the first film. He's so charming that even though he's a villain and you're not supposed to like him, you find yourself liking him, right? And we sympathize with him in part 2. Part 3 is a bit of a struggle. 4, it's Norman, right? Again, we know that we probably shouldn't be rooting for him, but he just comes across likable, and I feel like some of that charm is a little bit back here in this movie, not to the degree of the first one, but it's there. You can see it a little bit. So, that's fine. Cinematography for this film, I I think everything's fine. I do like the shots we get to see when they return at the end of the film, and we'll get into that when we start walking through it. But I like the shots that we see again of the motel and the house, because a lot of this film is taking place. It's taking place there, but it kind of in different areas and things like that. And then when we get that shot to see what it all looks like now, I think it's pretty cool. Cinematography's fine. Again, we get some good shots here. There's some things that I don't like about the story. I don't mind this story. I think it's fine, and I really don't know what else they could have done at this point with Norman and with this franchise. So I think this story is interesting. The I don't really know whether it's a plot twist or not, but the tight kind of a plot twist that comes late in this film is interesting. But I don't like the way this story ends, and we'll get into that as we get there. But yeah, score, we do get the classic Psycho score back, which is incredible, an amazing score. I was so glad to hear it in this film. There's a couple of other places where we get something a little bit different, but still not bad. And so, yeah, all of that I think checks out, and it's pretty good, really. I'm a fan. Only a couple of production notes here to mention. This was filmed at Universal Studios in Florida, and tourists were actually able to come around and watch several of the scenes being filmed while they were shooting the movie. That would have been cool, I think. Anthony Perkins had actually pitched an idea for this film, but due to Part 3 being a critical and financial failure, Universal rejected his idea. They brought in Joseph Stefano, who had taken what Hitchcock did and did the screenwriting for the original. He was then brought in to write this film. And then, kind of the main thing I wanted to talk about here, kind of sad, but I still wanted to bring it up. So Perkins was diagnosed with HIV during filming. He had to receive treatment during production, several times during production. And then, of course, Perkins passed away September 12th of 1992 at the age of 60 from AIDS-related pneumonia. Director Mike Garris stated that while Perkins was one of the most difficult and challenging actors he had ever worked with, he was also greatly appreciative of everything that everyone did and any help that was given him. So, looking back and watching this now, and know that he was struggling with his health during this film, and what he had to be struggling with in so many aspects, with the diagnosis that he had been given and what was going on. I don't think you can tell that in his performance, which shows how incredible he is. And going back now and watching this and knowing, again, this was the last time he would play Norman Bates, a role that, he's so iconic for, knowing what he was dealing with, it just kind of makes, I feel like, seeing him in this film and seeing his performance in this film all the more special. So, even though it's been quite some time now, again, he passed away in September of 1992, still rest in peace to Anthony Perkins, Norman Bates, just an amazing job, iconic character, because of such an iconic performance. So, all right, let's get into the plot, start to walk through this one a little bit. We'll break this down and talk Psycho 4. We open this film up. Again, we get that original score. We kind of get a lot of different shots here. We get shots of a knife, butcher knife there. We also get shots of like a birthday cake. We get some shots showing us that we're going to be at a radio station. Just a lot of different things going on. Some blood in a sink. Kind of a lot happening here. And then we jump right in and pick up with this radio station and their coverage, this talk radio coverage. And we hear someone talking about killing his mother on this radio station. We have our host, Fran, and we have a few doctors sitting around talking about matricide. And Dr. Richmond is one of the doctors that's talking, and he kind of drops a hint that, he may have worked with Norman Bates. He references a case, doesn't mention any names here, but we know that's what he's talking about. For the opening, it's fine. We don't waste a lot of time as far as really getting in here and setting up what we're going to do, which is fine. I don't think anything jumps out at me as just being an incredible, amazing opening, but it's not bad either. The opening for the film is, I don't really know any other way to put it. It's just fine. There's my dog chiming in. You all know Bella. She likes to hop in here from time to time. And yeah, it's so funny to me the way she does this. I can be getting ready to record. I'm getting all my stuff ready. I'm getting my drink. I'm getting logged in. And she's just laying there being super quiet. And then as soon as I start recording, she decides to bark at the entire neighborhood. So Bella just likes to make her presence known. She even chimed in. Recently, I was on Horror 365's live stream, and Bella decided to sound off there and also made an appearance on that. So I don't know, maybe Bella needs her own YouTube channel. She would probably jump up in subscribers much faster than I have, but that's perfectly fine. She's a great dog. All right, we'll pick back up here. So yeah, opening just fine. I'm not really sure what else to say about that. But then we get Norman. He calls into this. He's listening to this broadcast, and he calls in. He says his name is Ed, but he immediately, he's creepy. He's kind of got his creepy thing going there, and he tells them that he's killed before. And then we get kind of a pretty cool scene there where he says, "And now I'll have to do it again." Again, the score here is fantastic. The way Norman drops that line is really good. That he's killed before, and now he'll have to do it again. Again, great job by Anthony Perkins here. And then we start, this movie has a lot of flashbacks. And so we get our first flashback where Norman's talking about killing a girl at the motel. And so we cut back and we see Norman with this woman at the Bates Motel, this younger girl. She's hitting on him. She wants to go up to the house, whereas he's trying to get her to maybe just go. I think he says, let's go into the parlor. But he has to go down and do something with plumbing on one of the rooms that's being rented. And so she sneaks into the house. He ends up going up there and finding her. They go to his room for a few moments. They start to, make out and do their thing. And then Norman keeps thinking he hears Mother. And so he leaves to go check on Mother. While he's in the other room, of course, this girl comes in there then to find him and see exactly what he's doing. Get a couple of cool shots of, again, seeing Mother's corpse laying there on the bed. The girl sees Mother. And then, of course, Norman comes up behind her dressed as Mother. We get a brief moment of Norman and Mother talking as well here. But Norman comes in dressed as Mother and ends up killing the girl. I like this scene. I think this is good. Again, I really like the conversation that Norman briefly has when he calls into the radio station. I think he delivers that line that I've killed before and now I'll have to do it again. So we immediately know that all this time that we're hoping that Norman is better and he seems to be living a normal life, but we know that he's still got some issues and he's planning on killing someone else now. I also, again, I like this scene where he's goes into Mother's room and we hear them talking. We get some of that classic type conversation going on between Norman and Mother where she wants him to kill this girl that's in the house and he doesn't want to, so Mother's saying she'll do it, that kind of thing. Norman goes into the bathroom, I believe, where the other girl comes in and she finds Mother's corpse. And then, like I said, Norman comes out. He's dressed as Mother now, and he kills her. Decent kill. I mean, it's nothing fantastic. But, again, we got a good moment there in this one. It's a fun scene, and I liked the way things started off. I was immediately getting the vibe in this film that I was going to like this better than Part 3. Which was a plus for me because I had heard that Cycle 3 and 4 were both bad. And I agree that Cycle 3 is not great. But I was really hoping to like this one, and I was glad with the way it started off here. From there, we get back to the radio call. While on the phone, Norman cuts his finger, and we see blood kind of coming out of his finger into the sink that looks similar to like the shower scene where, he killed... Janet Leigh's character, just drew a blank on her name, but where he kills her in the shower in the first scene, that classic shower kill, and we see kind of the blood running into the drain there. We get a similar shot here, so kind of a throwback that's pretty cool. We then get Norman on the phone with what turns out to be his wife, so we learn that Norman is married. We also learn that it's Norman's birthday, and he's waiting on his wife to get home. After he gets off the phone with his wife, he calls back into the radio station. He starts talking about his mother. And then we get another flashback to when Norman was 6 years old. We find out that his father had passed away from being stung multiple times by a bee. We get some more flashbacks of Norman when he was young and with his mother and kind of some of the happier times when, things weren't crazy or when Norma wasn't acting crazy. Norman briefly talks about killing Norma's boyfriend. We don't see that yet, but he mentions it. We get another flashback to where Mother found a lingerie catalog in Norman's room and was very upset about this. And here's where we start to see how, I'm looking for the right word. I don't want to say crazy, but that's the only word I can think of that Norma was. She finds this lingerie catalog. She makes Norman go outside. It's raining outside. She makes him take the catalog outside in his underwear. He starts to get dressed. She makes him go outside in his underwear to throw this catalog away in the trash. We also get a scene there's some very odd scenes in some of these flashbacks about this time in the movie. There's another scene where we kind of get Norman through that, hole in the wall that he has, watching his mom in a very odd way. There's another scene where it's very hot, and so she's asking Norman to help her cool off, and he's like doing, like dabbing her with something to try to cool her off, and she's one. It's a very weird scene here that's almost uncomfortable. The things that she's having him do to her, and then they start wrestling around, and again, very awkward scene. And apparently, this scene get this happening gets this young Norman aroused, which mother feels it, and then gets very upset with Norman again. She tells him, that that thing is horrible that he has, and she makes him end up putting on a dress. She makes him wear lipstick. She like locks him in a closet for a little bit. She tells him that he, the only thing that part is for peeing, and he needs to squat to pee. So a lot of she hits him some as well. There's some physical abuse. There's a lot of psychological abuse, and just some very odd, uncomfortable moments between Mother and Norman. And I wasn't sure how how I felt about this, because if the movie is wanting to make you feel uncomfortable, it's doing a really good job, because I honestly felt uncomfortable watching some of this, knowing that this is supposed to be a teenage Norman and his mother, that these things are happening. So if it's wanting to give you that uncomfortable sense, and it's wanting to show you why Norman became the way that he did, and it's wanting to show you how unstable his mother is, it does a good job at all of those things. It gets that across. But at the same time, it's just so fucking weird to watch. So I don't know how I feel about these scenes that are happening here in this movie. Yeah, but that's what's going on. We then cut to the radio call again. Dr. Richmond on the phone realizes that this is Norman Bates, and so he starts then talking to Fran, the host, and some of the other people there, that this is Norman. And because he made the statement that he's going to have to kill again, like, the doctor is really panicking now and trying to figure out what's going on. We get another flashback to Mother being very upset because the motel is struggling financially. We get some more physical abuse, some verbal abuse. We cut back to Dr. Richmond and the radio host arguing. On the phone, Norman reveals to them that his wife was actually a psychologist at the institution that he was in, and that for her it was love at first sight, that she helped him get better, and that he eventually fell in love with her as well. Also kind of weird that that's where they went with this movie, but okay. And then we cut now to Norman talking to them, and more flashbacks about Mother bringing home a man. We then, like I said, we flash back where Norman ends up basically briefly watching his mother and her boyfriend, whose name is Chet, in the hotel having sex. Norman is spying on them. We get some scenes where we see Chet is also very abusive towards Norman. Like, at one point he puts boxing gloves on and makes Norman wear boxing gloves, and then punches him several times. Back to the radio call, Norman talks about how much his mother influenced him. And then he just seems to, out of nowhere, admit that he is Norman Bates. He's not Ed, he's Norman. We get another flashback to Norman being in the car with an older woman back around the Bates Motel. And we hear more of like Norman and his mother arguing before Norman ends up killing this woman and dumping, putting her body in the trunk and putting it into the pond. There's a couple of scenes where she's actually not dead and he's having to wrestle with her some more. Pretty good scenes here. I mean, again, I felt like the movie does start to hit a stretch here. Again, there's a lot of flashbacks. And while I'm not opposed to that, and while I see what they were doing with, again, setting up why Norman became the way that he is, and how, crazy Mother is, those kind of things. Again, I know what they were doing with this. I see what they were trying to accomplish. But at the same time, I felt like maybe we got too many. I also felt like that at times in this particular section of the film, it starts to drag a little bit. I mean, the runtime is not much. I think I mentioned the runtime. I'm looking through my notes right now. Excuse me. 96 minutes. So it's not a long movie, but it feels like it drags here in this middle part of the film, or even getting close to the ender. Kind of shit am I saying? To the end of the film. It does drag a little bit here. And so I kind of feel like this film is a little bit of a roller coaster, where there's some really good stuff happening in this movie. We're getting some solid performances. We get, decent kill here and there. But then again, a lot of flashbacks and a lot of, yeah, it drags. A lot of storytelling, a lot happening, and it just kind of drags a little bit here through the middle of the film, in my opinion, and causes it to feel a little bit longer than its runtime. Um, Norman then begins to talk on the radio as well about how he preserved his mother's body through things like taxidermy that he had learned. We get another flashback where we see Norman working on that a little bit. I felt like this scene could have been better, but it was okay. And then on the radio, Norman begins to talk about killing again, because the doctor has left. He's upset with the way they're doing this. And so now just the radio show host is trying to get Norman to, one, not only not kill, but who is he trying to kill? Like, she's trying to get more information. And Norman ends up revealing that he plans on killing his wife because she is pregnant, and he did not want a child. He did not want another monster. He was afraid that the baby would end up to be just like him. And so he's going to kill his wife because she is pregnant, and he does not want this kid. We get a scene here now where we actually get to see Norman kill. We get the flashback to Norman killing his mother and killing Chet, where he poisons them. And I just felt like multiple times in this particular set of scenes, again, this could have been really good, and it's not terrible, but there are multiple times where Chet seems to come back, like we think he's dead, and then he comes back and fights with Norman for a minute, and then he's down again, and we think he's dead. And then a little bit later, he comes back again, and then they fight again for a minute, and then he's down, and we think he's dead. It also happens a couple of times. So sorry. It also happens a couple of times with Mother, where we think she's dead, and she seems to come back. And so there's just, again, I feel like this part of the film also drags a little bit, even though there's things going on that are somewhat entertaining. It's just too much. We didn't need Chet to come back 4 or 5 times, and Mother to come back, 2 or 3 times. He poisoned them; they're dead. Like, we don't need to keep trying to add to this with them just not quite, being gone yet. After this flashback, Norman hangs up the phone, and then he ends up calling his wife. When he calls his wife, he tells her not to come home, and instead he wants to meet at Mother's house. I am so sorry for Bella; she is all wind up right now. But yeah, he tells his wife, she's getting me sidetracked at this point. He tells her to meet at Mother's house, that he wants to see her there and talk there. She doesn't really understand why, but she agrees to do so. They meet at Mother's. They begin to talk about having the baby. We see Norman get a knife, and so now he's chasing his wife through the house. She ends up getting down into the fruit cellar. And right as Norman is, he comes in there, and right as he is about to kill her, then she is able to convince him very easily and very quickly that he's not a killer and that the baby will be fine. Again, here, what I was mentioning earlier, that I don't like the ending of the film. This is really what I don't like about it, because we've been doing all this setup. We've been leading to the fact that Norman's still not okay, that he's going to do these things. And now we get to that point, and where he's chasing her through the house, and there's a couple of close calls here and there. Not bad, entertaining scene. But then the climax, if you will, where he's now just about to kill his wife, and then it's just so easy for her to be like, "No, Norman, that's not who you are anymore. You're fine, and the baby's going to be fine." And Norman's like, "Oh yeah, okay." It's just too simple. I just don't like the way this film ended, because I felt like we've been building up to this moment for this entire movie to get to this moment, and then it's over in just a couple of seconds and so simply. And the ending just does not make sense to me that it was that easy. Personally, I know this is supposed to mean that we get a happy ending for Norman, but for me, I would rather we have seen that maybe he killed his wife and went back in prison, and that's the way it ended for Norman. Much bleaker, right? But it just would have made more sense. It would have been more Psycho-like than to do what we did here, in my opinion. But after he decides, okay, he's not going to kill her and everything's fine, he does decide to set the house on fire. We see him, he sends her outside, and he's pouring gasoline all over the places and lighting the place on fire. He then has some close calls where he struggles. We wonder if maybe Norman's going to get burned up in the house. Maybe he's not going to get away, because there's several things there where he falls, or he's almost trapped for a few minutes before he's finally able to escape and get out of the house. While he's in the house as well, and he's trying to find different ways to get out, he has another vision of Mother. He has a vision of Chet. He has a vision of some of the other victims here in the film that he killed. These are okay. Honestly, I felt like this too could have been better. Having the visions of Mother is fine. Even having the visions of Chet is fine. But I felt like, they gave visions of some of these other two women that he had killed in this movie. I think if we could have got like a shot of him seeing, Maureen from the first film, or something like that, I felt like that would have been better. Like, let's show some of these classic characters. Let's give a shot of them, and that's what he's. Um, yeah, that's what he's having these visions of. I think that would have made more sense. It would have explained more of him struggling. I just think that would have been better. Um, so yeah, I wish they would have done that, but this was okay. He ends up, like I said, barely escaping the house, and then the next day, we see Norman, and he, tells his wife that they're there. They're all around the rubble where the house is burned, and he tells his wife that he's finally free. But then, as they begin to walk away, we hear Mother screaming, let me out, and then we hear a baby crying, and that's the end of Psycho 4. Um, yeah, that's it. That's the movie. Again, I felt like this movie. I do enjoy this movie better than Part 3. I don't like it as well as Part 1 or Part 2, but I felt like this movie had potential. There were some really good things in this movie. I love, again, that we got the original score back. I thought Anthony Perkins' performance was absolutely incredible. Henry Thomas did a really good job playing a young Norman. Um, some of the flashbacks were good. There was a little bit of tension here and there in some of these scenes. The way Perkins delivered some of these lines really is what brought the tension. So there were some good things to this movie, but there was also some very frustrating things. A very disappointing, frustrating finish that I didn't think made sense. Some very slow moments in the movie where it seemed to drag and overall felt like a much longer runtime than what the movie actually was. Um, Overall, I don't think this is a bad movie. I just don't think it's great either, but it's good. Again, I recommend watching Psycho 4. Uh, I'm a completist, so part of me wants to tell you to watch the whole franchise, but I think you could skip 3 if you wanted to and watch 1, 2, and 4, and it's still a lot of fun. Um, Trying to decide where I'm going to rank this one. I feel like, again, it's not excellent. It's not on the same level as Part 1 or Part 2, but it's not bad. It's almost in that middle category. I think I'll give it a 6. Yeah, it's not quite good enough for a 7. Um, Man, I'm struggling. I almost don't want to go as low as a 6, but it's got to be. Yeah, I'll say a 6. Psycho 4 gets a 6 out of 10 for me. I struggled with that one, in case you couldn't tell. But yeah, that's my thoughts. I want to know what you think of Psycho 4. Now, I'm still going to come back. We're going to do another Psycho episode. I'm going to talk about that remake that they did. Um, I know I've seen this movie before. Be honest, I did not have a very high opinion of it, but I'm going to give it a rewatch. I've got it on Blu-ray, so I'm going to give it a rewatch where Vince Vaughn is playing Norman. To see what I think about it, I'll come back and talk about it. And then who knows? I may schedule a live at some point, see if I can get a couple of people to come on with me and us just talk about the franchise in general, like I've been doing with these things. Maybe rank these films. We might even talk a little bit there in that live about Bates Motel, depending on if who I can get to come on has seen it or not, because I watched that series and really enjoyed it. So yeah, there's more Norman to come. We're not quite done with Psycho yet. But I want to know what you think about this movie. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you think about Psycho 4. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Where would you put it in the franchise if you have seen it? What do you think about Anthony Perkins' performance in this one? Yeah, just all of your thoughts on this film as well. I really love it. I say this every time. One of my favorite things about doing this channel is the interaction with the horror community, because you guys are absolutely amazing. So leave me some comments, hit the like button, hit the hype button, share the video, follow me on social media. I'm pretty much on everything out there: Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, Letterboxd. Just search Sean's Horror Corner and you can find it. Be sure and subscribe so you don't miss anything. I've got some fun episodes coming on Sunday night. I will be live on A&B Horror with Aaron. So that'll be a lot of fun. Also, next week, I have episodes on Ready or Not 2. That will be a fun one to talk about. Brendan from Our Life in Horror is going to be back. He and I are going to be talking about Evil Dead Rise. So that'll be coming up later. Again, Aaron from A&B Horror, he's coming on again. He and I have been going through the Nightmare on Elm Street films. We'll be talking about Part 4. So a lot of fun stuff coming up. Yeah, be sure and I have another live coming up very soon, just in a couple of weeks. Sarah, or not another live, I'm sorry. But Sarah and Kelly from the Final Girls is going to be back, and we're going to be talking about Final Destination 2. That one's not a live, that's a recording. Sorry. So, yeah, there's lots of fun stuff coming. Be sure and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Thank you again so much for watching. I really do appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe, like, share, comment, hype, do all those things, and I will see you soon.